The 2024 season is right around the corner, and every team, more than likely, or some teams, are going to have guys that were previously kind of unsung start to emerge as these impact guys, these playmakers. What I'm going to do today on the Crushing It podcast is I'm going to go over some of the guys I think can break out for the Denver Broncos. Of course, if you guys are liking the content, if you do like the content, I just whacked something. But if you guys do like the content, let me know with a like, let me know by subscribing, and let me know who you think can break out down in the comments below. So yeah, let's just get right into things. My first breakout candidate this year is going to be Jaleel McLaughlin. Now, last year, kind of in like a third stringy kind of role behind Javonte and Samaje, he was still really good. He had 410 yards, 76 carries. He was just ripping 5 yards a carry. And I see a lot of similarities with Jaleel McLaughlin that I do say a guy like Philip Lindsay back in like 2018, 2019. I think he has that kind of running mentality, but I also think, he's a small, shifty guy. He's fast, and he's a guy that provides a spark in an offense like this. So, and with him poised for a bigger role this year is probably the true number 2 back. I think he's going to have a shot to have, honestly, a really good season, especially if Javonte Williams rebounds, which we'll get to him later. But the way I see things right now, is definitely a breakout candidate for me. And Peter Schrager agreed, by the way. Peter Schrager had him, I believe, at number 10 or somewhere in there in his breakout list. So I'm willing to agree with one of the pros here. Jaleel McLaughlin will be a breakout player for the Broncos this season. We got a little bit of a 2-for-1 here, and I am basing a lot of this kind of on upside. But for my second and I guess third guys that I think can break out this year, it's going to be Greg Dulcich and Lucas Kroll, two of the kind of higher upside vertical threat guys in the Broncos tight end room. Dulcich, obviously coming off of an injury last year, didn't play at all almost. Only had, like 25 yards. He's looked good this preseason. And I still really like what I see of him as a vertical threat. And I think he understands, that there's a lot on the line this season. There really is. So he's going to have to show out if he wants to continue to be a Denver Bronco. And I think he can. I think he has the physical traits, and I think there's a lot of factors working for him too. Obviously, of course, like I said, the injuries are a concern. But one of the biggest, I think, just factors working for him is Bo Nix. And it's in the way that I think Nix is a lot more willing to target kind of the middle of the field or check the ball down a little bit more. Rather, like Russ cannot throw the middle of the field. Russell Wilson cannot throw middle of the field, at least not well at all. But now having a guy like Bo Nix, who I think can target all parts of the field well, that's going to mean an increase in targets for Dulcich. He's going to get more chances. I think he's a really good guy after the catch. And that's going to kind of go for Lucas Kroll, who is extremely unproven. But, kind of watching him this preseason and the little bit of time that he got last year, I think he has a lot of good physical traits, kind of similar to Dulcich. He's tall, he's fast, big fast guy, 6'6", 260, thanks PFR. Like this guy can run, and I think he's going to benefit from the same things that Dulcich is going to benefit from. Just Nix, what we're going to hope is Bo Nix's willingness to target the middle of the field, find other guys. He was a guy that got a few catches from Bo. Bo was kind of looking for him all preseason. So I imagine these two do have good chemistry together. Nix and Kroll and Nix and Dulcich. I think Lucas Kroll has a chance to be an impact guy for the Broncos and to help make their tight end room some level of a threat in 2024. Next up, we have Nick Bonito. I don't know why I'm in the Google Docs tab. Let's get out of that here. Nick Bonito is a guy that I liked coming into last year. I thought, he had a chance to take a step up. Obviously, 1.5 sacks is a really low floor. And he put up 8 last season, which was kind of wild that that's all he put up because he started the season out incredibly hot. and then just cooled off down the stretch. And he wasn't bad as like a tackler or anything either. Decent pass rush when he, wasn't sacking a guy. Was okay and very limited coverage opportunities. Doesn't miss a ton of tackles. Kind of low missed tackle percentage rate. So, what makes me think Nick Bonitto can break out? I think it's a multitude of things. I think he's bendy, he's fast, he almost, and maybe knock on wood here. I think his I think his game kind of reminds me of like a Von Miller type guy. And really, like, he just plays with a high motor, he plays fast, and I feel Baron Browning kind of plays the same way. We'll get to him in a second. But I feel really good about Nick Bonitto, especially coming off of the year that he had last year. I think if he kept up his pace last season, we don't have him on this list just because, maybe he already breaks out with like a 12, 13 sack year, assuming his pace doesn't slow down. Sorry, I had some spit in my throat. Yeah, I think there's some good factors working here too. I think because he's probably going to be number 3 on the depth chart, so he'll be out there with like a Baron Browning or a Jonathan Cooper, more than likely. So I think if that's the case, I think the further development of those guys are going to open up some lanes for Nick Bonitto. I thought he looked better against the run this preseason as well, and I know that was something that was kind of a gripe with him. I thought he looked better against the run, and I don't think he's ever going to be an exceptional run defender, but like even if he's like average, like an average halfway decent run defender, I do think that he is. I do think that he's poised to have a breakout year. The only other gripe that I have with him holding him back is just consistency. I think if he can develop a consistency here, our boy Nicholas Bonitto can break out in 2024. Next up, you've got Javonte Williams, probably one of my favorite Broncos over the last couple of years. There's a lot to like with Javonte Williams. First, 21 games of his career. And I mean, like, these are numbers you'll take, like 903 yards, which I don't really think he was the feature back in 21, was he? He might have been. Anyways, Javonte was really good for the first 21 games of his career. It was constantly just kind of hovering around that like 4.5 yard average. And then he rips his knee to pieces in 22. So this was 23, his first season back from injury. And like, it wasn't awful by any means, but he definitely did not look like the Javonte Williams of old. Almost a full yard down per carry, less yards per game on average. Just not a lot working for him here. He was decent in the receiving game, but he's not like your primary receiving back. I really do think that he's poised for kind of maybe not a breakout year, but definitely a rebound year. Just judging off of the fact that I think outside of center, the offensive line got better, and we'll have to see how whoever is starting, I can't remember for some reason. We'll have to see how that meshes, but I think he's running behind a decent offensive line, and I think, and this is kind of based off an if the pass game can develop a little bit, if the receivers can mesh if that all works, and the threat of Bo Nix, like if Bo Nix just turns out to be like an average quarterback this year, or a slightly above average quarterback this year, I think that takes a lot of pressure off Javonte Williams, because suddenly you have to respect the Broncos passing attack a lot more than you had to with Russell Wilson because of how limited he is as a passer. And I think Bo Nix's legs too might actually, give him some help here. Just taking some of the pressure off of him. He has gone on the record to say that this is the best he's felt going into a season, and I'm really excited to see what Javonte Williams can do in 2024, and hoping for a good rebound season, buddy. Next, we have our boy, Courtland Sutton, number 1 Broncos wideout on the depth chart for the last couple of seasons, actually for a good long last couple of seasons. There's some good here. There's a lot of good here. 1,000 yards under his belt in 2019. That was a Pro Bowl campaign. And really, he spent his entire career playing with lackluster quarterbacks. Hasn't broke over 800 yards, obviously, or yeah, hasn't broke over 830, I guess, or whatever in the last 3 years. Sorry, that came out weird. But these 2 year, let's see, he was playing with Russ these 2 years. It was Drew Lock, Joe Flacco, whatever hodgepodge of quarterbacks were there. From 19, 20, 21. 2018, it was Case Keenum, his rookie season. So I think that, I think with Bo Nix being here, assuming he is what we think he is, I think by default, Courtland Sutton is poised to have a better year. That's just the way that I see it, because he's going to get more quality quarterback play. In fact, this might be the best quarterback play of his career that he gets. He was a red zone nightmare last year, obviously, 10 touchdowns, made a lot of incredible catches that a lot of them ended up being game winners, which was the cooler part, or at least close to game winners. I know that Vikings catch was definitely a game winner. So yeah, I think there's a lot here to work with. Big body guy, he can go up and get catches, that sort of thing. I think the development of the Broncos receiver room too, along with kind of some of the speed they have there, I think that's going to take some of the pressure off of Courtland Sutton. And, that's kind of, again, holding hope that maybe the tight ends break off, or one of the other receivers in the room steps up, like a Josh Reynolds or a Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, whoever. But I think by default, the improvement in quarterback play and more consistent quarterback play is going to do wonders for Courtland Sutton. And I think he could break for, like another 1,100-yard, 1,200-yard season. That is just the way I see it. But the way that I'm seeing it, I think Courtland Sutton can be a guy that maybe legitimately breaks out in 2024. And lastly, you've got Baron Browning. He's a guy that I know a lot of Broncos fans were waiting on last year to have a legitimate breakout year. Injuries kind of hampered him, only held him to 10 games. He worked 4.5 sacks out of that, which I think was good. He forced 2 fumbles as well. Where was that part on the table? Anyways, forced 2 fumbles last year. Oh, it was up here. Forced 2 fumbles last year, had a recovery. Or no, I'm looking at the wrong part. Let's reset. 2 forced fumbles last year, 4.5 sacks in 10 games across from, the likes of Jonathan Cooper and such. And I think if he can stay on the field, it's going to work wonders for the rest of the Broncos pass rush, and I think they'll work wonders for Browning in return. I think the continued development of Jonathan Cooper and even Nick Bonito, and just the help along the Broncos defensive line as well, should really help Browning here. It's just he's got to stay on the field. He has to be available and ready to go. So hoping he doesn't have any injuries, because I have a lot of faith in Baron Browning. I actually sincerely believe that Baron Browning can become a really good pass rusher. And, if anything, I think I see a little more Von Miller in him than I do Nick Bonito. I don't think he's not as fast, I don't think, as Nick Bonito, but he definitely has like the bend, the technique, a lot more of that down than like Nick Bonito. I think he's a little better against the run as well. So with that being said, I think Baron Browning is, again, a guy that's poised to have a good year. The only thing that I could see hampering the pass rush, though, is if the red flag that is the secondary, or the question mark, I guess, turns out to be a complete liability, just because these guys aren't going to have as many opportunities to get sacks. But, even with that kind of being the case, I really think this Broncos pass rush, and Baron Browning really in particular, has a chance to kind of have a breakout season, and I see Browning being a guy that can lead that charge. And with that being said, that will be today's edition of Crushing It. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down below. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode. See ya.